Precious people, I'm glad you could join us tonight. This is the 25th day of April, the year 2024. Indeed, it's a day that the country continued to bear the brunt of heavy rain occasioned by floods that are experienced in various parts of the country. Road impassable, houses, residential places submerged. The city itself is in chaos. This is the sad state of our nation as the country continue to witness floods occasioned by heavy rains that continue to pour in every part of the country. Thousands have been displaced, hundreds have lost lives, and this is the sad reality. So welcome once again to today's our bulletin. We have much and more lined up for you, but first thing first, our top stories tonight.
Tonight, don't dare nature. Gachagua cautions Kenyans daring to drive and cross through swollen rivers. Up and running. Ruto officially opens ultra-modern multi-billion Bunge Tower. Also tonight, stop gambling with health matters. Don'ts throw their weight behind striking medics, tells the government to honor their end of bargain. Plus, we are ready for you. Scientists to brainstorm on how to prevent disease outbreak in the face of climate change and increased pandemics.
This is KUTV Primetime News with Auma Evans.
Tonight, I'm not alone. I'm in full backup of a sign language interpreter tonight. Lucy Kiarie will be helping us in the sign language interpretation department. Remember, you can be part and parcel of this broadcast. We invite your feedback and comment on this broadcast. You can plug in your views, comment, and we'll be sure to sample them at the tail end of our bulletin tonight. Remember, we are still tracking the discussion matters to do with flood, and just like they say, the devil is in the details. We will be diving into the details to see how the rescue mission looks like and what does the situation on the ground looks like. And of course, to help us unpack this will be our guest, that is the head of disaster and risk reduction at Kenya Red Cross, Dr. Michael Ayabei, and that discussion will be coming to you in just a while later on. But first thing first, let's dive into our main story. Now, tonight, the government has promised to intensify management and rescue measures for Kenyans affected by floods occasioned by the ongoing prolonged rains in the country. According to President William Ruto, all internally displaced persons will be facilitated to find alternative settlement as the National Youth Service will provide shelter to the most vulnerable people affected by the raging floods. Anyango Sylvia is on that beat tonight.
The Kenya Meteorological Department has warned of persistent heavy to very heavy rains exceeding 40 millimeters in 24 hours across several regions including the Lake Victoria Basin, Rift Valley, highlands west and east of Rift Valley, Nairobi area, southeast lowlands, coast and the northern sector. In an emergency session that brought together all key stakeholders in the response to the ongoing flooding across the country, chaired by President William Ruto today, all internally displaced persons by the ongoing floods caused by the current prolonged torrents were assured to be facilitated to find alternative settlement.
There are citizens living in very dangerous places, and those are the most vulnerable at this point. And I'm happy the Minister for Energy is here. so that we can begin to inform citizens if they are in places that poses danger to them, we begin to relocate them. I already told the National Youth Service to provide some land for us to relocate some of the people who are in the most dangerous parts of Nairobi.
The affected households will be provided with foods and non-food items. Again, I will tomorrow chair a committee on national disaster response, incorporating all stakeholders, including our development partners and humanitarian agencies.
The Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, in a press briefing after the meeting, noted that the government has established a national flood emergency multi-agency team and a response center to address the flooding situation witnessed in various parts of the country.
The multi-agency emergency response center has been activated from 4 p.m. this afternoon and shall be domiciled at Nyayo House to monitor what is happening across the country and initiate immediate interventions to save lives and property.
The government intends to provide daily flood alerts to inform Kenyans on the situation of the rains and flooding. The outlook for the next week indicates that the country will receive above normal rainfall across the country. In that regard, all members of the public are urged to exercise caution while traveling and those living in the lowlands to move to higher grounds. Anyango Sylvia, KUTV.
Now, still matters flood. The long rains tree growing campaign in Embu County was launched this morning with chiefs urged to ensure 3,000 trees are planted each of the 51 location. County Commissioner Jackson Obua, who launched the campaign at the Camp Ndunda ecotourism site in Jukiri Forest, also instructed the county chiefs to ensure all schools plant trees in their compounds. The Embu County Forest Conservator, Mariam Kamau, urged residents to mark their social occasion, such as birthday and weddings, with tree planting activities as a permanent reminder of their special days.
Kila assistant chief, kila chief, kila wiki inatakikana waongoze communities kupanda miti 3,000 kwa kila location.
Kwa hivyo ningewahimiza kila mtu kutoka hapa, hata ukienda kwa kanisa, hata ukienda kwa birthday, kila mtu amak hiyo sherehe na upanzi wa miti.
Tushirikiane zote tuweze kukuza miti, maana kupanda ni njia nyingine na kukuza miti. Na faida ambazo tumepata kwa huu msitu ni nyingi. Kwanza watu wetu wanapata kuni, wanapata maji na wanapata nyasi ambayo inatokana na msitu.
All right, now let's dive into health matters. Now, scientists across the globe today converge at Nairobi to deliberate on issues on how to end diseases. Now, in effort to strengthen the health sector by building sustainable systems that train and empower human resources to combat complex and dynamic global health threats in the world's most vulnerable areas. And as our health reporter Dorothy Musyoka explains in the following report, scientists from Africa and across the world converge today on day 2 of the AfroHam conference to deliberate on common approach to address disease outbreaks in the face of climate change and increased pandemics.
Scientists including medics, veterinary experts, public health practitioners, environmental science experts, among others, mostly drawn from the academia, have met for a 3D conference at Imara Ole Sereni Hotel in Nairobi under the guidance of Africa One Health University Network, AfroHan. Professor William Bazeye from Uganda, who is the Chief Executive Officer of AfroHan, said the fellowship aimed to empower university networks to strengthen national capacities to prevent and respond to emerging diseases and pandemic threats.
Community diagnosis is very, very important. Community engagement, we do it together with the different specialties. So what we have learned is that we can support our countries. If there is an epidemic, we can take different specialties to address different needs of the communities.
Professor Robert Tenge, Principal for Health Science at Moi University, noted that a holistic approach to healthcare is necessary in the face of emerging microbes occasioned by global change.
Time we brought up people who are able, right from the beginning, to incorporate all the aspects that will look at the health of the humans, the health of animals, and the environmental aspect.
The conference focused on strengthening the next generation of One Health workforce in building sustainable systems that train and empower human resources to combat complex and dynamic global health threats in the world's most vulnerable areas for disease emergence.
Now we are combining hands. So it's no longer the role of the WHO to handle this. It is actors through institutions that speak this agenda today.
AfroHan is spread across 9 countries in Africa, with 18 universities in the network, comprising 36 students' clubs. Dorothy Musyoka, KUTV.
Right, thank you, Dorothy Musyoka, for that comprehensive reporting. Now, Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology lecturers have thrown their weight behind the striking doctors in public health institutions. Members of the University Academic Staff Union at JKUAT, that is the JKUAT chapter, said they are in solidarity with the doctors' union and told the government to heed to the issues raised by the medics and stop gambling with the health matters. Addressing press conference in Juja, the officials led by the chapter Secretary General Shadrach Muya accused the government of failing to honor their end of bargain.
In light of the ongoing doctor strike, Wazo JKUAT chapter emphasizes its unwavering support for the healthcare professionals and advocating for fair working conditions and improved health care services in this country. We acknowledge the significant impact of the strike on the training of our students, particularly I want to repeat, their hospital rotations in public health facilities. This disruption by the strike has posed a serious threat to their education and may strain our training facilities and the faculty resources if the strike continues. And we are closely monitoring the government's response to the doctor's strike. We view the government actions in tackling the strike as a reflection of its lack of commitment to the welfare of its citizens, and we demand swift resolution to alleviate the suffering and uncertainty by all stakeholders.
Now, precious people, questions have been asked about the Bunge Tower. So here is the answer for you. The parliamentary budget shall be, in the coming days, be expected to drop significantly by close to 400 million shillings annually following the opening of the Bunge Tower by President William Ruto on Thursday morning. The head of state challenged the legislators to offer world-class representation and legislation to Kenyans during the official opening of the 28-story building. Theo Masharia now reports.
Thursday morning, President William Ruto finally opened the 9.6 billion shillings Bunge Tower, whose launch slated for April 19th was pushed forward following the tragic death of Chief of Defense Forces General Francis Ogola. The 28-story building, built for over a decade, comes with a set of luxurious amenities for Kenyan legislators, including a gym, a beauty parlor, library, and a restaurant, with an underground tunnel for security and comfort of the members of parliament, plus connecting the offices with parliament buildings. With these facilities, President Ruto asked Parliament to reduce its budget since the newly launched tower has enough facilities to hold meetings, which have been consuming approximately 1.5 million shillings daily on hired rooms in high-end hotels to hold committee meetings.
So as you appropriate the next budget, just remember that Parliament does not now need money to go to hotels, and therefore the budget should come down.
With the new state-of-the-art facilities, the members of parliament will now be expected to deliver their output in service to Kenyans on world-class standards.
We expect, and the people of Kenya expect, world-class representation, world-class legislation, world-class oversight. The quality of debate, having opened the library, and each member of parliament having some research people to work with, that the quality of debate, the quality of representation of legislation is going to greatly improve.
Speaker of the National Assembly Moses Wetangula didn't shy off from criticizing those opposed to the projects during its construction days.
I can't count the number of times you have been asking me, hiyo nyumba itakuisha lini? Hiyo nyumba tutafungua lini? Today, as we open this building, honorable members, I want to join the honorable minority leader, Wandai, to allay the skeptics who have been pouring vitriol on the structure, the rejectionists, and many others who have been saying many things. This building is here. We will use it, and it will serve the purpose for which it was meant.
On the other hand, Senate Speaker Amason Kingi stated that the facility meets the standards of a modern workstation, ideal for our legislators.
It stands out not only for the beauty it adds to the Nairobi skyline, but for its outstanding features that have been of great interest to visiting delegations and school teams on learning tours. Without doubt, this will continue to bolster the image of Parliament of Kenya as an institution and as a destination for benchmarking for other parliaments in Africa and beyond. This is a big plus for our nation.
The building, conceived during the Mwai Kibaki era, whose design was inspired by the shield emblem on the Kenyan flag, boasts of 331 dedicated offices for members of both houses of parliament and 26 committee rooms. The 26 committee rooms are hosted on the 1st, 2nd, 3rd and 5th floors, with the 6th to the 22nd floors of the building hosting 331 offices for members. Theo Masharia for KUTV News.
All right, now that story by Theo Masharia takes us to our first break here on KUTV Primetime News. Remember, plenty more to follow, including our discussion of the day, where we take a look at matters, or rather we have conversation based on matters, the ongoing floods in the country that continue to wreak havoc in different parts of the country. Remember, thousands have been displaced, others of course hundreds of thousands, or rather tens of thousands displaced, and even some lives being lost in the process. And this is the sad reality of our state of the nation, where we find ourselves in as a country, and this all is occasioned by the ongoing floods. So we'll be having a discussion. Remember, we have a Head of Disaster and Risk Reduction at Kenya Red Cross, that is Dr. Michael Ayaibe. He'll be here to just give us an overview of what is happening as far as the rescue mission and the reduction process, all those into account. And just like we see, the devil is always in the details, and we'll be getting into details about this, the whole issues to do with flood. See you in a while.
Kaunti maarufu kwa kuzalisha maziwa na ukuzaji wa majani chai. Pia, serikali ya kaunti inawahimiza wakulima kukumbatia mitindo mingine ya kilimo kuzidisha mapato.
Kama kuna kikundi moja inafanya biashara ya kuuza kuku, hao pia tumewafadhili kuwafunza jinsi ya kuhandle zile kuku, kwa sababu wanaleta kwa wingi.
Haya yote tunakuletea katika Boresha Kilimo, toleo la kaunti ya Bomet.
Kilimo ni nguzo kubwa kwa ujenzi wa taifa.
Access to knowledge, solution to unanswered questions.
Guidelines to pursuing your rights.
possessing your property, intellectual or material.
This and more only on Law Matters.
From the hospital corridors, we bring you experts to discuss issues affecting your health, from diet to mental health. The familiar and the ignored are both put into perspective. We then dive into the environment and look at the effects of climate change and its solutions. Join me, Mutegi K. Martin, every Friday at 9 p.m. as we learn on how to better our health while taking care of our environment. Only on KUTV.
Get ready to kickstart your day with the most exciting morning show around. Tune in to our dynamic and entertaining program where we keep you informed, engaged, and entertained from the moment you wake up.
From breaking news and current events to music, fun, and out of the ordinary stories, we've got you covered with a mix of interviews, games, and special segments. You never know what's in store.
Join us every Monday morning
and Tuesday morning
for a fun and fascinating way to start your day.
Don't miss out on the action.
Tune in now and experience the excitement for yourself.
Only on KUTV Rise Today from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m.
Start your day
with us.
Are you an aspiring media practitioner, a graduate, or you just want to advance your skills in television production? Then welcome to Kenyatta University, where education meets innovation. KUTV, the premier university television station in Kenya, is now offering short courses in TV studio, field technical operations, and video editing. Through these courses, you will acquire hands-on skills on camera operations, media production, lighting techniques, audiovisual editing, and sound and visual control, and how to operate key equipment in modern TV control room. Enroll today at KUTV and discover your full potential in cutting-edge TV broadcasting. Graduates of these courses will receive professional certificates. For more information, visit our offices at KUTV Studios or call us on 020-870-4252 or 020-870-4255 or SMS us on 0739-110-544. KUTV, a new experience.
Tunachimba hadi mizizi kukuletea yanayojiri.
So mimi naomba tu serikali yetu ya Mungu, ibarikiwe na Mungu, iweze kuteremsha bei ya mafuta.
Yanayokukumba tuna maizi, tunakutetea sisiri. Kwa kweli ni speciali tukikupambia makala ya mwanamke mwake. Hutasema hupendi, mizizi ya habari. Nami Caroline Kimwe.
They are powerful and influential. They make decisions in politics, education, finance, agriculture, health, sports, and all aspects of human life. But the impact of their decisions falls on you, the common citizen. KUTV Primetime News Thursday. We ask bold questions and pursue answers to the core to bring you closer to the story. We couldn't have it any other way. Join me, Auma Evans, as I raise matters of social concern to raise your voice from the background to the foreground. Every Thursday and Saturday at 9 p.m. only on KUTV.
Maelfu na maelfu ya wahamiaji wakiwa na watoto kutoka nchi za Amerika ya Kati wanaendelea kuwasili kwenye mpaka kati ya Marekani na Mexico.
But folks, I'm going. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Ni habari kutoka pembe zote duniani.
People pass vuguvugu. People pass ni idea.
Tazidi ananyonya, hanyonyi vizuri, anakuwa hayuko comfortable.
Jeshi la Jamhuri ya Kidemokrasia ya Kongo linapambana na waasi wa ADF.
Kwa sasa wanatoa wito kwa mashirika, makampuni na vile vituo vya uchukuzi.
Mambo mengi yatakwenda kama yalivyopangwa. Hapa ni kuna mmoja wa viongozi wa chama cha wavuvi katika eneo hili.
Zaidi tunajaribu kuwapa chanjo ili ina boost ama inanyanyua kinga ya mwili, hiyo inaenda kupelekea kupambana na virusi.
Ni Duniani Leo, Jumatatu mpaka Ijumaa, moja kwa moja kutoka VOA Swahili, Washington DC.
Are you an aspiring media practitioner, a graduate, or you just want to advance your skills in television production? Then welcome to Kenyatta University, where education meets innovation. KUTV, the premier university television station in Kenya, is now offering short courses in TV studio, field technical operations, and video editing. Through these courses, you will acquire hands-on skills on camera operations, media production, lighting techniques, audiovisual editing, and sound and video.
You are watching KUTV Primetime News with Auma Evans.
All right, welcome back, and now the discussion begins. Remember, we are talking about matters flood that has wreaked havoc in different parts of the country. Deaths have been recorded, and of course it's a discussion that we are tracking in, and of course to help us unpack this discussion is Dr. Michael Ayaibe, Head of Disaster and Risk Reduction at the Kenya Red Cross. And of course this is a discussion that is very close to the heart of many Kenyans. Remember, it could be, your brother, your sister, yourself, or even your neighbor affected by this, drought. And at this very, pointing moment in time, it's very important to take precaution measures. And of course, even as we track this particular discussion, remember, a number of people, tens of thousands of people have been affected, and some even thousands displaced as a result of the ongoing floods, rendering many, businesses being halted, roads being impassable, and that is the state that we find ourselves in. And we are here just to take a look at what is happening across different parts of the country, and who is best to give us insight and give us the perspective of how things looks like right now than Dr. Michael Ayaibe, the Head of Disaster and Risk Reduction at Kenya Red Cross. Well, Doc, thank you so much for making time.
Thank you for having me, and it's a good moment to be with you today.
Right, the pleasure is all ours, Doc. Well, the recent days, actually a couple of days, we have been waking up to news of maybe deaths being recorded, people being displaced as a result of the ongoing drought. At this point, we can't talk about preventive, but at least we can talk about response, and this is where you come in. So just tell us, in just a brief, how is the situation on the ground, Doc?
Well, over the last couple of days, things have been deteriorating owing to the heavy rain. And as it had been forecasted by the meteorology department, talking of enhanced rains, the March, April, May rains, which are the main rains in the country, then we have experienced quite a high amount, which have been reaching even above 40 millimeters in 24 hours in some areas. And this being water that has accumulated over time even on the ground, then it means the soils are getting saturated, and that is why most of it will then end up in the runoff. And just the events of last weekend on over the weekend, Sunday, Monday, then we saw, I think, one of the hardest, of the heaviest rains that we have experienced, and therefore expanding even the number of counties that have been affected, reaching up to 27 at the moment. Started with the northeastern part, going to coast, and then we are now having the traditional parts of the western Kenya. We see Kisumu, Migori, Homa Bay now coming in heavily, because also there is some level of backflow from the lake, and therefore affecting the population that is living near that area. So we are looking at life-saving activities at the moment, which are search and rescue. So far, the society has supported the rescue of at least 508 people. We've lost animals, we've lost lots of acreage in terms of the acreages of food, and therefore, even as we were moving from a drought situation and a little bit of recovery, then these gains are likely to be lost if these rains continue to an extent of destroying more acreages.
All right, Doc, kindly bring us up to speed with the latest statistics in terms of people affected, those displaced. You talk about, the number of lives lost. So how does the number looks like at this particular moment? I understand we have been keeping track of the death toll at Mathare flooding, and as things stand right now, the number is rising to 13. So on your end, how does things looks like in terms of the statistics, the number of deaths recorded so far, and even those affected with this flood?
Also that the situation we are having is one that is evolving, and the data keep changing, and for sure the numbers given for Nairobi and countrywide remain the same, at least 13 reported in Nairobi. But then what we are looking at is how many households have been affected. At least 29,370 households. Remember, our households have an average of 5 people in it, so these have been affected in one way or another. At least 13,459 are displaced, meaning that they have no homes now, and are either at the evacuation camps, or they have been integrated amongst other families. We have had at least 27 casualties. These are people who have been injured in various ways, and have been at least assisted to get to hospital or have been treated at discharge. The number of camps has now risen to 55, and as long as these rains continue, then you see bigger number of people is going to be displaced. We anticipate to have more now that the dams are full, and the overfill over time, then the Tana Delta is likely to burst bank, the Tana River itself, and therefore that then is likely to have more people that will be displaced. We also have cases of people that are missing, and Kenya Red Cross normally take action in tracking or tracing these people to ensure that we can be able to at least be able to know their fate, whether alive or dead, or wherever they may have gone to. Remember, when one is also reported missing, does not mean that they are dead, because maybe they are just not able to reach their families, or the families are not able to reach that person. That number today is standing at 23. So these are the numbers, and these people are in need of food, they are in need of shelter, clean water, and health services.
All right. Doc will talk about, the coordination between now your part as the Red Cross and, of course, the help that comes from the county government and, of course, the government itself. However, I want to draw your attention to two counties that are, that has been flagged as the most affected. We have the Nairobi County and, of course, Machakos County. Well, here in Nairobi, the flood seems to be, taking a toll in different parts of the country. Especially, there is some areas that was mentioned to be adversely affected by the ongoing floods. So, from your end, could you just pinpoint to us some of these areas, and if there is, some even cautionary statement that you could issue to people that still hold on to whatever little hope that they have as far as this particular drought is concerned. So I want you to talk to us about these most affected areas and how best can we take precaution measures, because remember the weatherman has already issued warning in regards to these ongoing floods, and it is said that for the next 24 hours the country will receive downpour to around 24 millimeters. So kindly brief us up into these most affected areas.
Yes, thank you very much for that question. A number of areas in Nairobi and the surrounding counties have faced heavy flooding. In Nairobi, quite a number of the informal settlements are along the river, and we are talking about the back to Mukuru, starting from areas around Kurunyayo, Kwaruben, Tarangombe, going up to Tarangombe on the other end. All these are aligned along the river bed. Also Madare, most of these being along the rivers, and then areas around Mwiki. We've seen areas around Ruai, Joska, Kamulu, Kasarane, and then little parts of Kibera also, because of the heavy flow from the Ngong area. That is for Nairobi, but also the surrounding. Remember, this is where now area around at the river. This is where lots of waters now start to accumulate, joining at the river. And areas around Mlolongo, Kitengela have been heavily flooded. Also on the northern part of Kajiado, we're talking about the area of Magadi. These are also been heavy levels of water flows, which have definitely caused flooding. Right. Now, the advice we would give really is two. One is that we have moved, I think, as a country, that we are having better focus that we are getting from the Met Department, and therefore, really, we advise people to be really looking at these advisories when they are given, like one which has been given today. So people need to be aware that in the next couple of days, at least 2-3 days, we will have heavy rains. Okay. And this is likely to continue the situation and make it even worse. So for those who have not moved to higher ground, and yet they have seen what levels these water have reached, these levels then are likely to still go even higher. So the best advice is they should be able to move at the moment to little bit higher ground. Secondly is that there is efforts in terms of rescue, and therefore, you can be able to reach out to the Red Cross and call numbers like the 1199 to be able to get
All right, okay, so that is the discussion that we are having with Dr. Michael Yabe, and of course we'll be getting back to him just to get his closing remark, but meanwhile let's continue with some other stories. Now, according to statistics from the National Treasury, the money going into paying debt from the total revenue collection is overpowering the money being spent on development and salaries. Statistics shows that in a period of 9 months from July 2023 to March, the government has used 1.24 trillion shillings to service debt. Our very own Edward Nyamu cracks the numbers for us.
In a report published by the National Treasury showing government spending, it is understood that in a period of 9 months from July 2023 to March of this year, estimates shows that the government has used 1.24 trillion to pay debt compared to 1.1 trillion used to pay workers. Additionally, the report also shows that by the end of the financial year in the month of June 2024, the government plans to spend shillings 1.86 trillion to pay the outstanding debt. It is clear that money being set aside to pay debt payment is nearly half of the government estimated spending for financial year 2023-2024, which stands at 3.8 trillion. This means that the government expenditure for development in the 9 months stand at 207.5 billion, which is below the estimated spending of shillings 457.2 billion, which was set for financial year 2023-2024. On the spending side, the State Department of Economic Planning was the biggest spender, where it spends shillings 21.3 billion, where the Crop Department used 29.9 billion, and the roads using 26.6 billion, making them the biggest spenders. The Health Department, which is a critical department, only spent 3 billion against the estimated shillings 14.9 billion, among other departments. Elsewhere, the government has exempted value-added tax toward cooking gas meters suppliers who were expected to pay 16% of the VAT. This is as a result of signing of the statute law bill into law exempting the tax. In the meantime, the Kenya Ports Authority and Kenya Revenue Collection has been given a green light to auction goods worth 145 million from 5 companies after they failed to appear in court to claim their goods. Edward Nyamo, KUTV.
Now, last summer, Senegalese fisherman Bahrain Mbaya and his friend Omar Sek left Senegal aboard crowded wooden fishing boat seeking a better future in the Conakry island. But the voyage was hit by disaster and Mbaya returned alone. David Dole of Reuters has more.
Under cover of darkness in July last year, Senegalese fisherman Baran Mbaye boarded a boat bound for the Canary Islands. He was accompanied by his friend Omar Sek and 99 other migrants, united by their hopes for a better life. It was a journey that ended in disaster.
We all thought that upon arrival, we would all find work where we could flourish.
Mbaye has returned to Senegal's Fast Boy. His friend Omar didn't make it back. The passengers on the 870-mile voyage were left adrift in the ocean after their wooden fishing boat ran out of fuel.
I don't remember the exact moment when we ran out of food. We first started running out of water. We only had biscuits left. We received 1 package a day and couldn't even eat it properly because it's dry and needed water. You couldn't even spit. We also drank seawater. It was very hard to drink.
Then, one by one, the migrants started to die. Mbaye says lowering the dead overboard became a daily ritual.
Whenever it happened, I thought I would be next. That one morning, I too would be dead and in the sea. Because what killed you could also kill me.
Mbaye remembers helping to drop Omar's body over the side. He took his friend's silver ring as a keepsake. But since returning home, Mbaye has been haunted by vivid nightmares.
I felt like he was really sitting next to me. I screamed. My wife ran in panic. My mother wasn't present because she was in the fields a little further away. We called for my mother, my father, and my sister to come. When people around me asked what was happening, I told them that Omar Sek was beside me and talking to me. I was crying until my mother arrived.
The stranded migrants were rescued when a Spanish fishing vessel spotted them off the Cape Verde archipelago. They had drifted 400 miles off course and were nearly as far from the Canary Islands as when they started. Umbai was found unconscious. He was rushed to hospital where he was treated for kidney damage. Only 38 people survived the ordeal. 7 bodies were recovered and 56 people reported missing, presumed dead. Most were from Fas Boy. On the coastal town's once bustling beaches, wooden fishing boats lie idle. Depleted fishing stocks and soaring living costs are imperiling livelihoods like Umbai's. The birth of his daughter, Maget, in April last year was a joyous moment, but also a stark reminder of his family's financial insecurity, prompting him to attempt the dangerous journey. Umbai is now back working on the fishing boats, even as he battles enduring kidney problems and painful flashbacks.
When I look at the ocean, I think of all my loved ones who died at sea. It's quite complicated to deal with. But I try to control my emotions. I go to sea to fish, but I no longer enjoy it. If I had a better job today, I would quit fishing.
More than 39,000 migrants, mostly from Senegal and Gambia, made it to the Canary Islands last year, according to Spanish Interior Ministry data. Rights group Walking Borders says more than 6,000 people lost their lives on the perilous sea crossing. But despite all he has suffered, Umbai says he would risk his life again. He has his family to think about. That's why I won't give up, he says. I have to go back.
Right, remember before this we were tracking discussion about now the ongoing floods, and remember on board is still Dr. Michael Aibe, Head of Disaster and Risk Reduction at Kenya Red Cross. And of course, Doctor, before we experienced that technical hitch, we were tracking some quite a very significant discussion in regards to areas affected, severely affected by the ongoing floods. And there has been some, calls even from politicians like the opposition leader, that is Raila Odinga, who has actually, called for this the flooding issue to be declared a national disaster. So I want to get your opinion on this. When you look at the number of counties that have been affected with these floods, and even areas that have been marooned, remember houses have been submerged, roads sometimes being rendered impassable, and this is the disaster that is there for all us to feel. Like many could feel it, either maybe you have experienced as one, or even certain families somewhere that has experienced this the ravaging wrath of Mother Nature. Doc, do you think this is a national disaster? Doc, you can unmute your mic.
Sorry. Yeah, thank you. I was saying that looking at the situation that we have, really, it just means that if some concerted effort are put in place, this situation should be put within control. And at least there have been great developments today, because the government has convened an interagency unit that was there during the El Nino period, sitting at the NDOC, and we are lucky as Red Cross to be part of that team. And all the ministries now being put to work jointly on this particular situation. And I want to believe that just as the situation was handled during El Nino, then in the next couple of days, this should be within now control and life getting back to normal. However, even as these efforts are going on, is to tell our members of public that they really need to be careful because of the forecasts that are given, and please follow the advisories as they are released. Mostly this is coming out from KMD, as I said, a little more accurate than years before. And this is information that can be relied on. So once the advisories are there, telling people to, not move in certain roads that are likely to get flooded, move from certain kind of residences, then they should heed to that. The challenge everyone has faced this particular season or time is that the kind of floods that we are facing in Kenya, starting from the El Nino, if you looked at what levels the water reached in Mandera last year, it's one that maybe at our lifetime we've never been able to see. The levels that now have been reached in what we saw in areas around Athi River also have not been reached, and we have limitations usually as human beings to really work on something that we haven't experienced. Now that people have an idea on the levels that this water can be able to get to, then we should get better warned, and therefore take the warnings.
Okay.
Well, so there are messages that are normally given, the terror messages sent within an area to tell people to evacuate, and we advise that people really follow those messages, usually that coming in by SMS.
All right, Doc, you have mentioned about a very critical point. President William Ruto formed a multi-agency team to actually try to offer some sort of response to the ongoing disaster that the country is experiencing right now. Well, what disturbs me, Doc, is that this is not the first time we have been there. Remember, recently the country suffered, the wrath of El Nino, and we have been in this similar situation. And of course, now this multi-agency, don't you think it's a case of rather a little too soon, too late, maybe, in this case, because this is something that we should already have mechanism in place to avert such issues. And remember, at the beginning of this discussion, I said that we'll talk about response. But now, let's try and take a look at now the preventive aspect of it, of which, in my humble opinion, I think we are past that. But don't you think now this effort is rather too late for now?
I think we can never say that we are too late, considering that even the forecast indicate that this situation will even get worse. And therefore, the efforts that are being put in place today will ensure, or at least mitigate, that higher level of impact that is anticipated. So it's not too late. However, going forward, of course, I would say as a country, we have been moving from even worse situations in terms of coordination and response. And I think the only bit we may just need to now tighten up is the timing. Again, considering the bit of resources and allocation takes a little bit of a process for some of the decisions probably to make. But if we can be able only to be able to pick on the time, then the first time during the drought and El Nino, we were able to see once these various units come together, the efforts really yield good fruits within a shorter time. Okay. So I don't think we can say it's too late, but it's a lesson that we may need to improve on the timing of this decision.
All right, well, Doc, that is very very instrumental point that you have raised about, now taking preventive measures so that, like they say, prevention is better than cure. At this point, the country is looking at curative aspect of it, but had we worked on the preventive measure, maybe today things would have been a little bit different. Well, Doc, I want to give you like in the next, let's say 30 minutes or so, just for your closing, 30 seconds, I beg your pardon, for your closing remark, Doc, because we are running out of time and we have to really wind up this discussion.
My request really is to say that as a country, this is the time we need each other in terms of people helping one another. People, some don't have food, they don't have shelter. We can be able to extend a hand. You will find rescuers in various places from various agencies who are out there. Let's give them support, whatever they can be able to, or whatever you can be able to assist to them, because that will go a long way in ensuring that they reach the highest number of people they can be able to rescue.
Okay. All right, thank you so much, Dr. Michael Ayaibe, the head of disaster and risk reduction at the Kenya Red Cross, for your insight and of course for making time to shed light on this very disturbing state of affairs that we find ourselves in as a country. It has been a very fruitful discussion and we look forward for further engagement as far as this flood issue is concerned. Thank you so much, Doc. All right, now let's dive into sporty action. Everton handed Liverpool a title blow in Merseyside derby after a 2-0 thorough thrashing at Merseyside, or rather at Goodison Park. Goals from Jared Brathwaite and Dominic Calvert-Lewin handed the Toffees a deserved victory that moves them 8 points clear of the relegation zone with 4 games remaining. In another match played in the English Premier League, Manchester United fight back twice to beat Sheffield United 4-2 at Old Trafford. United's keeper Bruno Fernandes scored twice, while Harry Maguire and Rasmus Hojlund each scored for the Red Devils. Precious people, I want to take this, time to thank you all for tuning in and of course for always keeping us a company in the last 60 minutes or so. Well, my name is Auma Evans. Lucy Kiare has been our sign language interpreter tonight. But before I leave, I want to leave you with, a word of cautionary. Take care. Take each care. Take very care. And of course, extend the care to your friends, family, and of course, your loved one. Make sure you make a phone call, check on them, just check to know what is happening. Are they safe? Because at this particular moment, the ravaging of this, flood that continue to wreak havoc is sending shiver to many Kenyans. I'm worried about you, and you should be worried about me, and that is the spirit of Kenya. Thank you so much. God bless us all.